Good day, everyone. Welcome back to our science class, and you're still with me, your science teacher, Sir Ryan. So before we continue with our new lesson, let's have first a review of what we discussed last meeting. So, last meeting, we talked about the modern periodic table in which we highlighted three important things. So first is that how elements are arranged in the periodic table. Second, we use the periodic table to identify if an element is metal, non-metal, or metalloid. And third, we also use the periodic table to describe the reactivity and metallic property of a given element. So, for our review now, so tell what element is being described by each statement. So you'll be seeing a statement like this. So period number 2, group number 3. So we have period 2, group number 3, and then after looking with or after knowing the statement, I want you to take a look with your periodic table and identify what is being described by the statement period 2, group number 3. So if you're going to look with your periodic table, you will see that the statement describes the element boron. Okay, so because boron belongs to period number 2, group number 3. Okay, so now let's continue. Okay, so the first one is period 4, group number 2. So the element that we are talking about here is, okay, so you're correct. So we have calcium. Next, let's have period number 7, group number 3. So let's count 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Period number 3. So the correct answer is actinium. Okay, and then next, we have period number 3, group number 4. So the correct answer is silicon. Okay, next. We have period number 5, group number 12. So let's take a look with your periodic table. Period 5, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And then group number 12. So we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. The correct answer is cadmium. Okay? And the next, we have period number 2, group number 2. So the answer is none other than beryllium. And last, we have period number 1, group number 1. The answer is hydrogen. So I hope you also got the correct answer with our review activity for today. Now, moving on. So I have here focus questions that we need to answer. So before we continue with our lesson for today, or maybe we could go back to these focus questions after we discussed our lesson. So number 1, so where are the protons and neutrons located within the atom? So we are all familiar with this question because we discussed the answer to this question when we talked about the subatomic particles. So we have seen on that particular lesson that protons and neutrons are located inside the nucleus of the atom, right? Now, second focus question. Where can we find the electrons specifically in an atom? So please take note that we have here the term specifically. So we are looking for a specific region or a specific area within the atom where we can find the electrons. Now, going back with our discussion with subatomic particles, we have seen that electrons are basically found outside the nucleus, right? So we have said that the electrons are found outside the nucleus and they are basically spinning. Okay? But now the question is, the question asks for a specific location. Okay? And that would be, we will try to go back with these questions later on, no? After we discuss our lesson for today. And third focus question, does the description about the location of electron in atom affects how element in the periodic table are arranged? So later on, we will see that the answer to this question is yes. Okay? Because basically, the elements in the periodic table are arranged in a way that it follows how the electrons are arranged on that particular atom. So may kinalaman po yung arrangement ng elements in periodic table with the location of electron in a particular atom. So we will see that later on. So our topic for today is all about electronic configuration, in which so our lesson objectives for today are the following. Number 1, define electronic configuration. Number 2, identify the steps in writing electronic configuration. Number 3, we will analyze electronic configuration and relate it on how elements are arranged in the periodic table. And number 4, we will draw the half-shell diagram of an atom based on the electronic configuration. So without any further ado, let's continue with our lesson right away. So the first thing that we will discuss is the concept of electronic configuration. Now, electronic configuration class describes how electrons are distributed in the orbitals of an atom. So take note of that. So again, electronic configuration describes how electrons, okay, so we are talking about electrons here, how electrons are distributed in the orbital. So basically, when we are dealing with electronic configuration, we are trying to locate the where electrons are found in the atom. Okay, so as you can see in the definition of electronic configuration, we have here the word orbitals. So what are these orbitals, class? Now, think of orbitals as something as container of electrons. Okay, orbitals are like container of electrons in an atom. So basically, the orbitals contains the electrons, and orbitals are outside the nucleus of a particular atom. Okay, so that's the general idea when we are talking about electronic configuration. Again, it describes how electrons are distributed in the orbitals. And orbitals are the containers of electrons around the nucleus of a particular atom. Now, so this is an example of electronic configuration. So by just looking at this example, there are informations that we could get. First, we have He. So take note, class, that in a particular electronic configuration, the symbol of the element that we are talking about is included. Another information is number 1. What is this number 1? Number 1 pertains to the energy level or to the period where the element belongs. Okay, so energy level of an atom or the period where the element that we are talking about belongs. And then we have S. S pertains to the orbital. Okay, and then 2, our superscript 2 here, class, pertains to the number of electrons in that particular orbital, or kung ilang electrons yung makikita natin sa orbital na yon. And aside from that, number 2 also represents the group number for group A elements only. So later on, I'll be showing you how to determine the period and then the group number of group A elements using the electronic configuration. Now, we have here additional keyword. So a while ago, we have seen that orbitals are containers of electron, right? Ayan, containers of electrons. Now, another term that we encountered is the term energy level. Okay, so what is this energy level? Energy level, class, is another term for container of electrons. Yan, so both of them are container of electrons. So how are they related with one another? Take note, class, that energy level is bigger than the orbitals. Okay, energy level is bigger than the orbital. So what does it mean? Si energy level po, container po siya ng electrons. However, if we will take a look with the energy level, we will find the orbitals. And what do orbital contains? Electrons. So it's like the relationship between energy level and orbitals are like container within a container. Something like that. Okay, so that's the general idea between orbital and energy level. So again, energy level is more general or bigger than the orbital. Okay? So now let's continue. So how do we write electronic configuration of a particular atom? So in writing the electronic configuration, there are three main steps that we need to follow. Step number one, the first thing that we need to know how many electrons are there in the atom. So since we are talking about electrons, so we should know first how many electrons are there in the particular atom that we are talking about. After knowing how many electrons we have, we will proceed with step number 2. So we will allot the total electrons in different orbitals. So what do you mean when we say allot? So it's like we will budget the total number of electrons to the different orbitals that exist per energy level. Now, in step number 2, I want you to take note that each orbitals, okay, each orbitals could only contain a specific number of electrons. So, what are these orbitals that we are talking about? So, the orbitals that we are talking about here are S orbital, the P orbital, the D orbital, and we have the F orbital. So, basically, there are 4 types of orbitals. So, we have S, P, D, and F orbitals. Now, take note class that the S orbital, the maximum number of electrons that can be found in an S-type orbital is only 2 electrons. For a P orbital, the maximum number of electrons that can be found is 6 electrons. For a D orbital, the maximum number of electrons is 10 electrons. And for F orbitals, the maximum number of electrons that we can find is 14 electrons. Take note of that because we will go back with this later on as we try to write electronic configuration with our sample elements. So now, after allotting after allotting the total electrons in the different orbitals, we will proceed with step number 3. So we will use the electron distribution mnemonic chart to know the sequence on how we will fill the orbitals and the energy level of a particular atom. Okay, so don't worry because it will be given to you. It is readily available with your periodic table, or you could use Google to search for an electron distribution mnemonic chart. Okay, now talking about electron distribution mnemonic chart, this is what we called as the electron distribution mnemonic chart. So basically, it shows us the pattern on how orbitals of a specific energy level will be filled with an atom. So as you can see, ayan, so we have here, let's say, take a look. So we have here 1s. 1s here, class, means that 1 pertains to the energy level. 1 pertains to the energy level, and S pertains to the orbital that it has. So what does it mean? Take a look. So the first energy level contains only one type of orbital and it only has one s orbital. Okay? And now let's continue. We have 2s and we have 2p. So we have 2s and 2p. What does it mean? Number 2 represents the energy level. And as you can see, for the second energy level, there are 2 possible types of orbital. And what are those? It could be an s orbital or p orbital. Okay? And next, for the third energy level. So for the third energy level, so we have 3s, 3p, and we have 3d. So for the third energy level, so number 3 corresponds to the energy level. And as you can see, the third energy level could have 3 possible types of orbital. It could be S, P, and D. So, let's try to relate it with the picture of an atom or picture of a nucleus. So now let's say for example, this is our nucleus. Okay, so let's say this is our nucleus. So let's say we are talking about of sodium. So this is the nucleus of sodium. So the first energy level is this one. Yeah, so this is the first energy level. And then let's transfer it here so that we could have ample space. So again, let's say this is the nucleus of sodium. So let's say this is the first energy level. This is our 1s. And then next, we will proceed with the second energy level. This is our second energy level. There are two possible orbitals in the second energy level. So we have 2s and we have 2p. And then next, we have third energy level. So we have here the third energy level. So there are three possible orbitals for the third energy level. It could be 3s, 3p, and 3d. Okay, so what does it mean? So the first energy level is the energy level that is closest to the nucleus. Siya po yung pinakamalapit, yung first energy level. Okay? So, now, talking about the electron mnemonic chart, ito na po siya, class. Ito, i-highlight natin siya. Ayan. So, ito na yung electronic distribution mnemonic chart na ifa-follow natin in distributing the electrons in the respective period, rather, in the respective energy level and orbitals of that particular atom. Okay? So now, let's try to answer. Let's try to write the electronic configuration of the element neon. So now, take a look with your periodic table. Now, neon is element number 10. So the atomic number is 10. So it means that the number of proton is 10. And then, let's assume that the neon that we are talking about here is neutral. Meaning, the number of electron is equal to the number of proton. So our electron is also 10. So this is step number 1. Step number 1 is identify the total number of electrons. So we have 10. Okay, so we are done with step number 1. Now, we will do simultaneously step 2 and step number 3. So we will allot the electrons to each energy level and orbitals that are available for that atom using the electron distribution mnemonic chart. So, now, this is our electron distribution mnemonic chart, class. So, I already included here. So, now we have 10 electrons to distribute using the electron distribution mnemonic chart. So, we will start with 1s. Okay, so you write down here 1s. Now, let me write the maximum number of electrons that can occupy the following orbital. So, again, for s, how many electrons? So, there could be 2 electrons. How about for p? So, the maximum number of electrons for p is 6. For d, there could be 10 electrons. And for f, there could be 14 electrons. Okay? So, 1s. So, we have here s. So, how many electrons that can fit into the 1s orbital? So, 2. Ayan siya. So, lalagyan natin siya ngayon ng superscript na 2. Okay? So, we're done with 1s. Now, next, let's continue. So, the second is 2s. Ayan. So, we have 2s. So, how many electrons can fit in an s orbital? Again, there could be 2. So, we will write here 2 again. Ayan. So, now, let's count the number of electrons that we already allotted to the energy level and specific orbital. So, we have here 2 and 2. So, meaning we already allotted 4 electrons. So, ilan na lang yung kulang na i-allot natin? So, 6 pa. Okay? So, we will continue kasi may 6 pa tayong electrons na natitira. So, next, after 2s, we will proceed with 2p. Oh, you write down there 2p. So, how many electrons are that can be found in a p orbital, maximum number is 6. So we will write down here 6. So now let's check if it's already 10 electrons. So 2 plus 2, 4 plus 6, 10 electrons. So that ends now our electronic configuration. So now, to make it complete, the electronic configuration of neon would be Ne 1s2, 2s2, 2p6. So this is now our answer. So this is the electronic configuration of neon. Okay? Now, there are some information that we could use, no? By just looking on the electronic configuration of the element. So take a look. What is the biggest number that we can see on its electronic configuration, or rather energy level? So we have 2, right? So we have 2. This is the greatest number here. So we have 2. So what does it mean? It means that neon belongs to period number 2. So it means that neon belongs to period number 2. Okay? So neon belongs to period number 2. And now, let's take a look with the superscript of the main energy level 2. So there are 2 superscript, 2 and 6. No? Merong dalawa, 2 and 6. So anong ibig sabihin nun? 6 plus 2, the answer is 8. So the group number of neon is 8. Okay, so the group number of neon is 8. So take note, class, that this information or this technique only works for group A element. And if you will take a look with your periodic table, neon belongs to group A element. Okay, so this is our electronic configuration. Now, let's try to draw the half-shell method or half-shell diagram of this electronic configuration. So let's have here Ne, neon. So this is our nucleus. This is neon nucleus. So this is our first energy level. So our 1s. So how many electrons does it have? Take a look. 1s, there are 2 electrons. So you will write down here 2 electrons. Next, second energy level. Ayan. So this is our second energy level. 2. This one. So how many electrons can be found in the second energy level? Take a look with the superscript. So for the 2s, there are 2 electrons. And for 2p, there are 6 electrons. So 6 plus 2, so there are a total of 8 electrons. So this is what we call as the half-shell method. It gives us idea on how many electrons are found in the energy level of a particular atom. So for our example here, class, neon, for the first energy level, there are 2 electrons, and for the second energy level, there are around 8 electrons. Okay? So now let's try to answer more samples so that you could easily understand. Ayan. Now next, let's have boron. Now take a look with your periodic table. Boron, the atomic number is 5. So the number of proton is 5. And then the number of electron is also 5. Ayan. So we have 5 already. Okay? Now, let's use the electronic distribution mnemonic chart. So we will start with 1s. So let's 1s. And again, how many electrons maximum can fit in s orbital? So there are 2. Okay, so we already have 2. So ilan na lang yung kulang? 3 pa. So we have 1s2. Next, let's proceed. Let's have 2s. How many electrons can fit in an s orbital? 2 again. Ayan, so we have 1s2, 2s2. And then next, ilan na lang yung kulang? Tingnan natin. So the total number of electron is 5. Ang naalat na natin ay 4. So isa na lang yung kulang. So we will proceed with 2p. Kasi yun yung susunod. sa distribution chart natin. So 2p, ilan ang isusulat natin? Ilan na lang ba yung electrons na kulang? 'Di ba? Isa na lang. So ang ilalagay natin dito ay 1. So this is now the electronic configuration of boron. So it will become boron 1s2, 2s2, 2p1. So ito yung kanyang electronic configuration. So wag malilito doon class ha. Ito po yung gist natin dito. Hindi po siya pwedeng lumagpas doon sa maximum number of electrons it could contain, pero pwede po siyang mas bumaba doon. Anong ibig sabihin nun? Di ba nakita natin kanina, yung S2, yung possible electrons. Now, for an S orbital, the maximum number is 2, meaning hindi siya pwedeng maging 3. Pero pwede siyang maging less than 2. So, pwede siyang maging or 1 electron. Pwedeng less than. Pwedeng magkulang, pero hindi siya pwedeng mag-exceed doon sa maximum number of electrons na meron siya. Okay? So, for P. So, for P, di ba, that the maximum number is 6 electrons. So, ang electron niya, pwedeng maging 6, pero hindi siya pwedeng lumagpas sa 6, meaning hindi siya pwedeng maging 7, 8, 9, pero pwede siyang maging 1, 2, 3, 4, or 5. Yun po yung ibig sabihin natin doon. Kaya siya naging 2p1 dito for boron. Okay? So, ayan. Now, let's draw the half shell diagram of boron. So, let's have here boron nucleus. So, this is our first energy level, 1s. How many electrons does it have? So, there are 2 electrons. Or you write down there 2. And then next, second energy level. So, we have here 2s and 2p. 2s and 2p. So, we have 2. There are 2 electrons for 2s and there is 1 electron for 2p. So, 2 plus 1, the answer is 3 electrons. Ayan. So, that is the half shell diagram for boron. Okay. Now, another example, carbon. Take a look with your periodic table. The atomic number is 6. So, the number of proton is 6. So as with the electron. Assuming that we are talking about of a neutral atom. So, now going back to our electron distribution mnemonic chart. So, we will start again with 1s. So, let's write down here 1s. So, 1s, how many electrons can fit into the s orbital maximum? So, 2. Okay? So, we're done with 1s. Now, let's proceed with 2s. So, 2s, again, 2 electrons could fit to the 2s orbital. And ilan na? So, 2 plus 2, 4 na siya. 6 yung binabudget natin. So, meron pa tayong 2. So, now let's proceed with 2p. So, let's write down here 2p. So, ano ang kanyang superscript? Ilan na lang ba yung kulang? 2. So, ang ilalagay natin dito ay 2p2. Okay? So, this is the electronic configuration of carbon. So, carbon 1s2, 2s2, 2p2. So, if we will write its half shell diagram, so this is the carbon atom or carbon nucleus rather. So, this is our first energy level, 1s. So, there is 2 electrons. And then, second energy level, so we have here 2s and 2p. So, there are 2 plus 2. There are 4 electrons for the second energy level. Okay? Now, next, another example is nitrogen. Nitrogen is element number 7. So, element number 7, nitrogen. So, the number of proton is 7. The number of electron is also 7. So, now let's allot the total number of electron to the energy level and orbitals using the electron distribution mnemonic chart. So, we will start with 1s again. So, we have 1s, possible number of electrons in maximum 2. And then, after that, we will proceed with 2s. So, we have 2s, 2 again. And then we have 2p. So we have 2p now. Let's check. So we already have 4 electrons. Ilan na lang ang kulang? 7 ang inaano natin. So meron na tayong 4. So 3 na lang. So ang ilalagay natin dito ay 2p3. So this is the electronic configuration of nitrogen. N1s2, 2s2, 2p3. So that is the electronic configuration. So if we will write down its half shell diagram, so this is the nitrogen, the nucleus of the nitrogen. So this is the first energy level, 1s. There are 2 electrons in the 1s energy level. And for the second energy level, so we have 2s. So we have 2s and 2p. So take a look, 2s and 2p. 2 plus 3. So there are a total of 5 electrons. Okay? So now, if you will take a look with your periodic table, you will see that boron, carbon, and nitrogen belong to the same period. And that is period number 2. So, bakit kaya magkakasama si boron, si carbon, and si nitrogen sa period number 2? Take a look with our half shell diagram. Makikita ninyo na si boron, carbon, and nitrogen, meron pong laman yung kanyang first and second energy level. 'Di ba? So boron, 2, first energy level. For the second energy level, 3. Kay carbon, ang first energy level niya ay 2. Ang second energy level ay 4. And for nitrogen, ang first energy level niya ay 2. And para sa second energy level, 5. So, anong ibig sabihin nun? Elements that occupy or have the same energy level occupied by the electrons belong to the same period. Yun po yung ibig sabihin nun. Okay, so they belong to the same period simply because their second energy level is filled or meron siyang laman ng electron. Okay, now let's answer some more examples. Ayan, so take a look with this one, class. So kung mapapansin ninyo, si boron, si carbon at nitrogen ay nandito. So subulat natin siya. So nandito si boron, si carbon, and si nitrogen. So kung mapapansin nyo, 2p, di ba? And this block in the periodic table, etong block na to, class, let's highlight it with color red. Ayan, etong block na to, ito po yung tinatawag nating P block. Okay, so that is what we called as the P block. Yung kanyang electronic configuration ay nagtatapos with p orbitals. Yun yung ibig sabihin nun. Lahat ng elements na nandyan. Okay, so p block. Now dito, ito naman yung tinatawag nating s block. Okay, so ang electronic configuration ng mga elements na nandito ay nagtatapos palagi with s orbital. And then, yung nasa gitna, ito yung ating transition elements or yung transition metal, ito naman po yung tinatawag nating D block. Because all the elements in this part of the periodic table, meron pong laman na electron yung kanyang D orbitals. And then last, ito po, yung ating inner transition element. Ito naman po yung tinatawag nating F block. Meron po kasing lamang electron or yung kanyang electronic configuration ay nagtatapos with f orbitals. Okay, so tatandaan po yung mga blocks na yan sa periodic table. So we have S block, P block, D block, and then F block. Now, let's continue. Ayan, so let's try 3 more examples. So we have here beryllium, magnesium, and calcium. So let's start off with beryllium. So beryllium, the atomic number is 4. So the number of proton is 4. And the number of electron is also 4. So now let's try to write its electronic configuration following the electron distribution mnemonic chart. So let's start with 1s. So let's write down here 1s. And then the maximum number of electrons that could fit in the s orbital is 2. So we have 1s2. And then After that, we still have 2 electrons to allot, so we will proceed with 2s. So we have 2s. So 2 plus 2, so we already have 4 electrons. So we are already done. So this is the electronic configuration of beryllium. So we have beryllium 1s2, 2s2. Now, let's draw its half shell diagram. So now this represents the nucleus of beryllium. So this is the first energy level, this one. So 1s2. So there are 2 electrons. And the second energy level, we have 2s2. So there are also 2 electrons. So that is the half shell diagram of beryllium. Now let's continue with magnesium. So atomic number 12. So the number of proton is 12 and the number of electron is also 12. So let's write its electronic configuration following the electronic distribution mnemonic chart. So we will start with 1s, 1s2. Next is 2s2. After 2s2, we have 2p6. So let's check first how many electrons are already allotted to its proper energy level and orbital. So we have 2 plus 2, that is 4, plus 6, 10. But we are expected to allot 12. So there are 2 more electrons to go. So after 2p, we will proceed with 3s. So 3s2. So let's check. 2 plus 2, 4. Again, 2 plus 2, 4. Plus 6, that would be 10. And plus 2, we have now 12. Ayan, 12 na siya. So this is the electronic configuration of magnesium. Yan. So this is the electronic configuration of magnesium. So now let's draw its half shell diagram. So this represents the magnesium nucleus. So let's start with the first energy level, 1s2. So this is 1s. Ayan, 1s. So there are 2 electrons in the 1s. Now, second energy level, there are 2 orbitals, 2s and 2p. So 2s and 2p. So 2 plus 6. 2 plus 6, the answer is 8 electrons. And then third energy level, we have 3s. So there are 2 electrons in the 3s energy level. Okay? Ayan. So this is the half shell diagram of the magnesium atom. Next, last, let's proceed with calcium. So calcium, the atomic number is 20. So the number of proton is 20 and the number of electron is also 20. So now let's try to write its electronic configuration using the electronic distribution mnemonic chart. So we start with 1s. 1s. Next is 2s. 1s2, 2s2. Next is 2p6. Next is 3s2. 1s2, 2s2, 2p6, 3s2, and then 3p6. Let's check first how many electrons we already allotted with its proper energy level and orbitals. So 2 plus 2, so we have 4 plus 6, 10, plus 2, 12, plus 6, 18. But we are expected to allot 20 electrons. So there are 2 more electrons to go. So we will continue with 4s. So we have here 4s2. So this is the electronic configuration of calcium. So calcium 1s2, 2s2, 2p6, 3s2, 3p6, 4s2. So let's draw its half shell diagram. So this represents calcium nucleus. So first energy level 1s2. Ito po, yung first energy level natin 1s2. So there are 2 electrons. Next, second energy level. So we have 2s2 and 2p6. So let's write down here. So 2 plus 6, the answer is 8 electrons. Next, third energy level. So for the third energy level, we have 3s2 and 3p6. So 2 plus 6, the answer is 8 electrons. And last, we have 4s2 for the fourth energy level. So there are a total of 2 electrons. So this is the half shell diagram of the calcium atom. Okay? So now, if you will take a look with the periodic table, beryllium, magnesium, and calcium belongs to the same family. They belong to group 2A. Right? So they belong to group 2A. Why? Bakit pinagsama-sama sa group 2 si beryllium, si magnesium, and si calcium? Kasi po, kung mapapansin ninyo, yung dulong energy level nila, this one, eto, let's highlight it with color green. Ito, yung dulong energy level nila, kung mapapansin nyo, ano ang pagkakapare sa dulong energy level nila? Pare-parehas ng number of electrons. 2 electrons, 2 electrons, 2 electrons. That's why beryllium, magnesium, and calcium are placed on the same family. Kasi po pare-parehas sila ng number of electrons dun sa kanilang dulong energy level. Now, anong scientific term natin para doon? Doon sa number of electron that we can find in the outermost energy level. Ang tawag po natin doon, class, ay valence electron. So that is what we called as valence electron. So number, again, valence electron is the number of electron in the outermost energy level. So pag sinabi nating outermost, yung pinakadulo na energy level. Outermost energy level. Okay, so we have valence electron. So kung titignan natin, ayan, so beryllium is here, magnesium is here, and then calcium is here. So nasa anong block sila? Nasa S block po sila. Okay? So that's it. That's how we write the electronic configuration of the elements. Okay? So now it's time for you to answer the activities in our Google Classroom. If you have any questions, just PM me. PM me, or you may chat in our Google, you may chat on our Facebook group so that I could provide you additional information if you didn't able to get our discussion for today. Okay?